Aloha everyone. So I've been getting a lot of questions from people who watched my last video update about Maui's Bill 9, which is the proposed legislation to phase out short-term rentals in apartment zoning here on Maui. Now, in that video, I shared updates from a temporary investigative group, or TIG for short. And the people that made up that TIG included 4 of the Maui County Council members that will eventually be voting on whether or not to pass Bill 9. So while nothing is official yet, it does give us a good indication of where this is heading. And since I've been getting so many questions about the TIG, I figured it would be best for me to give you information directly from the source. So in this video, I'm going to share a few clips from a recent Housing and Land Use Committee meeting where they discuss and clarify the recommendations of the TIG. Now, the discussion was held over the course of 2 different days, but since I respect your time, I'm going to cut it down to what I think were the most important 20 minutes of those 2 days. And in this first clip, one of the council members provides an overview of the TIG's report. So again, it's good for everyone to hear it directly from the source. And after her overview, Maui's mayor shares his opening remarks regarding the TIG. This is the first time we've heard from the mayor on this topic for quite a while. So let's take a look.
At last week's HLU committee meeting, we received a presentation and a report on Bill 9 TIG's temporary investigative group and our findings and our recommendations on policies, procedures for transient vacation rental uses in the apartment districts. Under the Sunshine Law, we could not deliberate, which was, I know, very difficult for everyone at that meeting, so we will proceed with deliberations today after testimony. As a reminder, the TIG voted unanimously to recommend the following: the introduction of a resolution urging the Department of Planning to introduce legislation establishing H3 and H4 zoning districts in Section 19.4 MCC that are like for like with A1 and A2 apartment districts, except that TVR uses will be outright permitted. This is per our discussion in our TIG. Having the planning department do so allows for a quicker process to establish those new zoning districts. We also discussed and unanimously recommended to do the following as well. Council initiated changes in zoning from A1 or A2 apartment districts to H3 or H4 apartment districts respectively. Once the H3 and H4 districts are established for the properties noted on Exhibit 2 of the report to make that change. Changes to the community plan designation for properties noted in Exhibit 2 and located in South Maui as a part of the council review of the South Maui Community Plan update that will soon to come. We will also have to do council-initiated changes in community plan designations for all the other properties in Exhibit 2. In order to do this, I will add, we will be working with Corp Council and Planning to expedite this process and to send a form letter requesting meets and bounds from all the separate properties so that we can make those changes. To develop these recommendations, the TIG met with a variety of resource persons, including the mayor, representatives from the Department of Finance and Planning, who you will see here today. I've invited them so that you can hear from them the discussions we've had and that we can all have a vigorous discussion of what we had in the TIG. Let's see, what else do I have? Okay. As a reminder, because the TIG has been disbanded and our recommendations have been shared with all you folks, we can make no more changes to Exhibit 2. Right now, it is what it is. I know there's been a lot of discussion, so I just wanted to put that out there. Also, I wanted to make clear that the TIG did not make any recommendation to make changes in Bill 9, but to do as we discussed from 1 to 4, as I said earlier. At this time, I'm going to ask for Mayor Bissen, thank you so much for joining us today, to provide us some opening comments, and then I'll ask Planning and Ms. Stockwell to do so as well. Mayor, thank you so much.
Aloha kakahiaka, Vice Chair, Hodgins, members of the Housing and Land Use Committee, our community, Yorana, Member Paulton Kiora. First, I want to thank Vice Chair Hodgins for her leadership in guiding the temporary investigative group, and mahalo to the council for your continued work on this deeply impactful issue. From the very beginning, we recognized that Bill 9 would require thoughtful conversation, community input, and most importantly, balance. It's clear that not all TVRs in apartment districts are appropriate for long-term residential use, and that some have been operating more like hotels. At its core, this is a zoning issue that has had a detrimental impact on our local housing inventory, and it must be corrected. The TIG's recommendations outline a clear and fair path to rezone properties that believe they are operating as hotels, while allowing council-initiated land use changes that distinguish long-term housing from short-term visitor accommodations. This approach protects housing intended for residents by upholding the integrity and the purpose of apartment districts, while ensuring properties are properly zoned for their actual use. This work is critical to preserving long-term housing options for local residents and ensuring that our keiki have a future here at home. My administration remains firmly committed to protecting housing for Maui's families, because this is not just about policy. In fact, it is about people. We're at a crossroads where bold decisions must be made if we are to change the trajectory of our future. While we all agree that Maui needs more housing for local families, that commitment requires courageous and decisive political action, the kind that looks beyond short-term pressures and focuses on the long-term well-being of Maui Nui's residents. I also want to address the misleading and politically motivated claims being spread by out-of-state special interest groups. These ads are designed to divide our community and create fear. The truth is, Bill 9 does not punish property owners or eliminate tourism. It restores balance to our housing system. While some real property tax impacts are expected, we are planning adjustments to help offset those losses. The long-term benefits of this bill are well worth the short-term implications, which we will navigate with responsibility and foresight. This bill, along with the thoughtful work of the TIG, clarifies and strengthens zoning laws to prevent short-term rentals from replacing homes that have always been meant for local families. And to be clear, we are not and never were banning all STRs. This measure affects about 6,700 of the nearly 15,000 short-term rentals countywide, the most of any island statewide. The TIG also recognizes the importance of passing a clean bill with a commitment to companion legislation to follow. Addressing these recommendations after Bill 9's passage will be essential to its success. As we've discussed before, additional measures will be needed to strengthen tax incentives for long-term housing, balance revenue adjustments, and ensure hotel-type properties have a clear path to rezone. This work reflects our collective commitment to a broader strategy to address Maui's housing crisis. A balanced approach that includes building new homes, incentivizing long-term rentals, and restoring existing housing to residents. These are the kinds of solutions that remind us that government works best through open dialogue, collaboration, and compromise. Our strength as leaders is measured by our willingness to listen to differing perspectives, find common ground, and take decisive action that reflects both the heart and the needs of our community. Again, mahalo to Vice Chair Hodgins, the members of this council, the members of the TIG, everyone who shared their testimony, and all who continue to contribute to this important discussion. Together, we are shaping policies that reflect our shared values and our love for this community. Decisions that will define how we live, how we care for one another, and how we set Maui back on a path where our residents and our keiki can thrive for generations to come. Mahalo, Chair.
Okay, so after the opening remarks, public testimony was heard. Most of the public testimony was from property owners whose property did not make it onto Exhibit 2. And remember, Exhibit 2 is the list of properties that the TIG suggested should be rezoned to a new hotel zoning H3 or H4. Of course, those owners presented their case for why their property should be included in the rezoning, and I will say that a lot of the testifiers did have a compelling argument as to why they should be included. This next clip shows the council members discussing what will happen to some of those properties.
Member Sugimura, did you have a question?
Yeah, on the, one of the testifiers yesterday, and I'm sure all of you got an email, Kauhale Makai said that they have the 13 timeshare as part of their whole. So what happens to them because they have timeshare plus they do everything else?
That one we apparently overlooked. We're gonna discuss what we're gonna do with that. And because it was part of our criteria, it will most likely be in the Exhibit 2 package when we have to do it.
Okay, so you're gonna add exceptions.
If they
Like
meet
that.
the criteria we've already discussed, but really timeshare was already exempt from Bill 9, so we were doing just to move them along. So if they're already doing timeshares, they're exempt. We exempted them from Bill 9. But we put them on the Exhibit 2 list just so we could have a clean list of what is already exempted.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you did not exempt them, but you are
No,
now.
but they're exempted in Bill 9.
Okay.
We didn't move them to Exhibit 2, but they're already exempted in Bill 9,
Oh, okay.
like all timeshares.
Okay.
Member Rollins Fernandez.
Even if only a portion of their total units?
Yes, because that is the most legal way to, this is what Nahulu advised us to do.
Okay.
Yeah, good
Thank
question.
you. Thank you.
Now, it is important to note that the council also clarified that the properties that are not included on the Exhibit 2 list are also welcome to apply for rezoning through a different process. Okay, so moving on to the next clip. This is where Councilmember Alice Lee asks a very important question to the Planning Commission. She would like to know how long it will take to, first of all, create the new H3, H4 zoning, and then how long it will take to approve the rezoning. Let's take a look at their answer.
What exactly will be required of applicants to successfully obtain a H3, H4 change in zoning? And how long do you think that process will last?
I think there's, thank you for the question. I think there's two processes. I think that as the TIG has recommended, that the council would be initiating at least the ones on Exhibit 2, I believe. So there's that process. And then the other process is for an applicant that perhaps is not on Exhibit 2 would then have to submit their own application for a change in zoning and community plan amendment if that's necessary, which it probably is. So they would submit that application. That application would have to be run through the planning department and then forwarded to and reviewed by the planning commission before the council action.
Oh, excuse me,
So those processes do take a bit of time.
Before we get to that, we have to have a change in zoning. The zoning created. How long do you think it'll
Yes.
take to create the H3, H4 zone?
I think, well, what would have to happen first, we would want to make sure that, I would think that Bill 9 would need to pass first so that we know that we're moving in that direction. Otherwise, H3, H4 wouldn't be necessary. But to actually craft the ordinance and move that forward, the department could initiate that process. It would have to go to the 3 planning commissions to be reviewed first. And then it would go to council, whether or not it goes to council committee or just reviewed by council, approved by council. I couldn't opine upon that, but it's a fairly straightforward process in creating the H3, H4 because it just replicates what's in the A1 and A2 as far as development standards and uses. So it's as far as the department preparing the report, it's pretty straightforward. just has to go through the planning commission. So I'd estimate that probably going through the planning commissions, my experience here so far is probably 4 to 6 months, probably.
Logically,
Given the public noticing required as well.
Mr. Post, logically, I can't imagine why people would want us to pass Bill 9 first and hope and pray that we pass H3, H4 later on with all the other recommendations of the TIG. That's a huge leap of faith, don't you think? Especially if some of us won't even be here. The mayor may not be here. Some of the administration may not be here. So, you have the possibility of changes occurring. People who were with, the process all of this time, and then who might not be here a couple years from now. Don't you think you need to have the H3, H4, a change in zoning created first? No.
I'm not sure you necessarily have to. I'm not sure what the purpose of the H3, H4 would be in doing that zone change if we didn't have the necessity of Bill 9 and actually making these changes. But I mean, I suppose it could go either way. I think it makes more sense for Bill 9 to pass first so that we're actually implementing Bill 9 through the H3, H4 process. But
No, I'm just saying, if Bill 9 passes, there's no guarantee that H3, H4 will be created. There's no guarantee.
That's correct.
Okay, so this brings up a very important point. One thing that I don't think has been communicated very well so far is that the TIG is not proposing a change to Bill 9 at all. Instead, it sounds like they intend to pass Bill 9 clean because they believe that gives them the best chance to win any potential lawsuits that will come up. But they would intend to pass companion bills to create the new H3, H4 zoning and change the zoning on all the properties identified in Exhibit 2. And that is a tough pill for property owners to swallow, as it would require a leap of faith that the council will be able to pass and implement the companion bills that are suggested in the TIG. In this next clip, the council continues the discussion regarding the timing and order of each step.
All right, so with your recommendations of the TIG, does the TIG believe that the steps that are needed to implement the recommendations could be done at a later date? For instance, creating the H3, H4, and any other important substantive steps. Could they just be done later, or do they need to go first?
When you say first, do you mean like right now before Bill 9 or?
Yes.
Okay. That's a great question, maybe for Corp Council. But what I do think is that, at least I think, this is not something we necessarily discussed with the TIG, but I think this is a good question for Nahulu. But the recommendations from the TIG could stand independently. It could, independently of Bill 9. It could. But I plan to do the H3 and H4 new designations concurrently with the change in zonings. And I hope to do that soon. We're actually having a meeting next week so we can discuss timeline. But I think Nahulu can answer your main question, if you don't mind, Nahulu.
Yeah, I don't mind. It doesn't necessarily need to occur before. It's up to this body on timeline of how you want to position these things. You could move forward on Bill 9 and create the zoning designation. It just depends on what you folks decide to do.
Well, it doesn't seem logical to me as far as the sequence goes to carve out thousands of units to be considered for a change in zoning, and that seem to meet the TIG's criteria for a change in zoning. But you don't have that zoning category created yet. and you're just hoping that in time it will be created. So, I mean, I don't recall us working on, substantive, significant legislation like this with the hope and wish that something else will occur in the future, and which may actually go into some other council's term where we have absolutely no control over.
I think that question is more for us. And I do see Member Paulton's hand up. I do hear you, Chair Lee, but I'm not gonna hope for it to get done. We are gonna do it. We've talked about it in our TIG. The planning department is gonna help us. They're gonna take the lead because it's a quicker process for them to do it. If they drag their feet, which I hope they're not, then we're gonna do it. We have, one of the recommendations is for us to do, as we discussed in the TIG, Member Cook is gonna do a resolution. Initially, Member Cook was going to propose the H3 and H4 zoning designation, but in discussions with the planning department, it is quicker for them to do it. It can bypass us and go straight to the planning department. Planning commission, instead of coming here to get sent there. So it's a quicker process. The other quicker process is to have a council-initiated change in zoning with the H3 and H4 new designations. It can happen simultaneously, and I plan to do it concurrently, and we're gonna start it soon.
But if I might add, you might try to do it concurrently, but you don't have control over everything. Lawsuits.
No one does, yes.
You don't have control over the planning commissions who may not agree with you. You may not have control over a whole list of things.
Sure.
So I'm not questioning your intent. I'm just saying that there could be, and probably will be, unforeseen circumstances that come up that will delay this process. And that's the part I'm concerned about.
Sure, I hear you on that. Thank you.
Okay, so my personal opinion on this particular discussion is that the H3 and H4 zonings should absolutely be created before approving Bill 9. The Planning Commission will argue that the new zoning would not be needed if Bill 9 does not pass, but I'd push back on that. I'd suggest that even if Bill 9 does not pass, these properties should all still be allowed the opportunity to upzone to hotel. Because if they remain in apartment zoning, this whole issue will continue to linger into the future. And I think it's safe to assume that there would be more different legislation proposed with the same objective as Bill 9. We've already gone through this in the past when the Minatoya list was created and passed into law. And that led everyone to believe that that was the end of this debate. But here we are again debating the same issue all over again many years later. So if there is a silver lining for property owners in this whole Bill 9 discussion, it's that changing these properties zoning to hotel should put an end to the debate once and for all. With that being said, I'm curious to hear what you think. Please share your thoughts in the comment section. If you appreciate the thoughtful updates, please hit the like button for me, subscribe for more updates on this topic in the future, and share this video with anyone you know who would be affected by Bill 9. I hope to see you all in the next video. Aloha.